I was already convinced that the Trails series was a masterpiece. Something of incredibly high quality writing and pretty decent gameplay. Wonderful characters and a genius interconnected world with an ever growingly and Jesus, what a great start. With a ever-growing complex plot. And then I played the Crossbell arc. And that has gone from being something that I'm simply convinced is, in my opinion, to it's just objective fact. The Crossbell arc, Trails from Zero, Trails to Azure, is probably some of the best story I've played in any video game. They're incredible. They are, so far at the very least, I think, probably the greatest games in the series. The Crossbell arc is absolutely incredible. There is simply not enough words for me to describe, how much I enjoyed it, but I'll do my best to explain it nonetheless. Though, I do have one slight gripe with the Crossbell arc, which I'll save to the end, so if you're interested in what that might be, stick around, or skip ahead. So, what makes the Crossbell arc so goddamn good? Well, let's start with the SSS, the Special Support Section, the Tokumushienka. This group is probably my favorite group in the Trail series so far, having played Sky, Crossbell, and the first half of the Ereboni arc in Cold Steels 1 and 2. The SSS are my favorite group of main characters. They have the greatest dynamic, they feel like they are genuinely a group connected together with each other, and not just a group of people that have one thing in common or are bound together by a single person. The SSS are wonderful. Lloyd, Randy, Ellie, Tio, and then later on Wazzy and Noel are my people. They are the goats. They are peak, and they're all wonderful in their own regard. I won't go into too much detail about their characters because their characters and their journeys are very, very spoiler focused and spoiler heavy, although I'll talk about them after a little bit. I don't want to get too spoilery at this point. I love them. Randy's my man. Lloyd is thick as a brick half the time and then an absolute genius the other time. If you've played the games, you know what I mean. It's baffling that he's got where he has. But nonetheless, he's also goated and his journey's fantastic. Tio is adorable and has a great backstory. Ellie, probably you'd argue, least interesting of the bunch, but she's still great. And then Waji, insane twist with him that I was not... I probably should have seen it coming, the twist with Waji that gets revealed in Azure, but I didn't see it coming. It did genuinely catch me completely off guard. And there's Noelle, actually. Noelle, although I guess Noelle has with the conflict of, the CGF and then the Defense Fort and so on and so on. But she's probably actually the least interesting member of the SSS overall. And then I guess there's also Risha, but that's, again, kind of spoiler. But, God, the story is just so good. The journey they go on. And, in fact, oh my God, genuinely, Trails from Azure, I think is actually, I don't know whether it's really hard for me to say. This was originally going to have this be like a nice structured video where I broke it down and, went through bits and pieces, but nah, fuck it, we're just going to ramble. Yeah, so I don't know whether I prefer Trails from Azure or Trails from Zero or Trails to Azure more. I think the payoffs of Azure are greater, and there's huger hits, there's bigger moments, there's greater impacts and all of that. But I think the whole journey of Zero was more touching. Specifically a certain character's arc that is really only possible due to how interconnected the Trails games are. Imagine a character's arc taking effectively 4 games to fully come to a conclusion, you know what I mean? And you might be thinking, what, 4 games, huh? Surely it's only 2 or 3 to push. But I'd argue it's 4, And then what about Ren here? God, Ren's such a good character. Her arc coming to its culmination in Azure. In Azure Zero. In Crossbell is just, it's so good. That's genuinely one of the greatest moments in Trails. And I mean, the Crossbell games are just full of impeccable moments. I mean, the Crossbell, it's just incredible. If we're talking about Azure, the whole presidential, the bid for independence and Dieter becoming mayor and then vying for power and becoming the president. Oh my God, it's insane. The political nonsense that goes on in Crossbell, I think, is one of the biggest and most hooking things in the games. I love politics. I find it really interesting. And seeing it handled as well as it is in the Crossbell games is unbelievable. It's so good at how well it's done. Obviously, you know, you've got all the other usual trail stuff as well that you'll be used to seeing if you've played any other games. You know, obviously, fantastic character moments, dark moments. Genuinely, these games in particular, there's some fucked moments in these games. Genuinely, right? It's so good. Genuinely, I don't want to say too much. I went through huge spoilers, but you play these games. If you've not touched the Trail series, try Cold Steel 1, and then go back and play Sky Forward if you enjoyed Cold Steel 1. Okay? Do that. Do that for me. Do that. Speaking of Cold Steel, let's talk about the one little gripe I have with the Crossbell games, and arguably also the Erebonia games, the first two of them at least. And that is that there's no real way to play Cold Steel 1 and 2 without spoiling elements of Zero and Azure. But there's also really no way to play Zero and Azure without spoiling elements of Cold Steel. These games are so interconnected because they take place at the same time that you're going to spoil yourself on one of them by playing the other one first. I suppose you could try and do some insane stuff and play them both at the same time, but you would have to be an absolute lunatic to do that. Mainly Azure that you'd spoil yourself on if you played Cold Steel first. And then, you know, if you played Azure first, you spoil yourself on Cold Steel. But you know what I'm saying. James, my biggest gripe, specifically with Osborne and his death in Cold Steel. Huge spoilers, but you're watching these, so of course you are. You know the stuff. His death in Cold Steel was insane. It was unbelievable. It was wild. One of the craziest moments in gaming, in my opinion. And then, you know, you find out it gets reiterated in the Crossbell games. So if you play the Crossbell games first, you know that Osborne gets assassinated in Cold Steel before you play Cold Steel, which I think takes away a bit from the moment of. Obviously, it's still insane because by who assassinates him and the circumstances surrounding it, but you're still going to lose a bit of that impact, right? And then also, again, in Azure, at the end of the game, you get some, like, you know, a little bit, some scenes about what happens in Crossbell's future getting annexed by Erebonia, with the annexation being led by Osborne. But he should be dead. So you're also spoiled on the fact that he isn't actually dead, which did kind of take away from the impact of his reveal of him being alive at the end of Cold Steel 2 when I played it. Because I played Cold Steel 2 after I finished Azure. But obviously, if you play Cold Steel, and also with Guerrilla Fortress being vaporized, you know, completely just delete Thanos snapped out of existence, you'll be spoiled on that if you play Azure. But if you play Cold Steel, you'll be spoiled on it happening in Azure, and you'll be spoiled on the kind of the outcome of what happens at the trade conference in Crossbell, and you'll also be spoiled on the annexation of Crossbell, right? You know what I mean? And you'll also be spoiled about the big blue tree, the Azure tree. You'll be spoiled. It's just, you don't get like the details, and the impact will still be there, but it'll definitely lessen the impact, in my opinion. Which is, it's like that these games are genuinely suffering from being so bloody incredible, of how well put together it all is, that you have no way of not spoiling yourself. It's so funny that the series' greatest strength, in my opinion, actually is slightly detrimental in this small aspect. Well, that's just my thoughts on it. You might disagree, let me know in the comments. But back to Trails, the Crossbell arc. Genuinely, these are the greatest games in the series. Obviously, I've not played Cold Steel 3, 4, Reverie, Daybreak, Crimson Sin, because that's not even out in English yet, although we're coming out in 2025. Kai isn't even out yet at all, right? So I've got a whole bunch of games left to play. But so far, my ranking for the Trail series is Sky first, Cold Steel 1. I don't know whether I can put Cold Steel 2 here, but I think I kind of have to. Cold Steel 2. Sky second. Zero. Sky third. Azure. That's my ranking so far. I probably won't bother putting it on screen. You can just listen to it. Might change. probably, obviously when I play more games, I'll get slotted in and things might move around and move up, move down, depending on where I put up the games. But wholeheartedly, the Crossbell arc is impeccably good. If you've not got around to playing them yet, for whatever reason, you're a Trails fan, what are you doing? If you're not a Trails fan, well, maybe give the game a go. Obviously, I've spoiled a hell of a lot for you here, but genuinely, I think it's worth it. So go check them out if you've got time, or think that you'd be interested. Seriously, go play them. Next week, we'll have a video on the Erebony arc, called 1 and 2, in one video like I did with this. Probably will be a bit more structured than this one, because this kind of turned into a bit of a ramble, because I'm a bit rushed on time. But yeah, next week, we'll do a video covering Call 1 and 2. So yeah, that all the way. I've been Aussie. You've been you. Leave a like, comment, sub, share the video around, notification bell. You know the usual YouTube stuff. And out of the way to tar. For now.